Welcome back to my channel. My name is Dielle, and today we're talking all about sales calls, one of my favorite things to talk about. I have helped so many clients learn how to convert sales calls after they heard no after no after no, and myself, I've converted over 7 figures of sales calls myself as well. And so one of my beliefs is that you can literally have 100% conversions on your sales calls. You can get so good at sales calls that you can convert anybody who comes on the phone with you. So in this video, I'm gonna dive into all my strategies on how you can have high converting sales calls and you can start getting yeses instead of I'll let you know, I'll think about it, or just a flat out no. So one of my first diehard beliefs that people might be rustling and tussling in the comments about is the fact that you have to call sales calls sales calls. There are so many words for them: discovery calls, strategy calls, clarity calls. Call a sales call a sales call. That will automatically bump up your conversions because people are going to get on those sales calls expecting to be sold to. There is nothing like someone hopping on a call and then them getting pitched and they didn't know that they were going to get pitched. They might be offended, they might be overwhelmed, they might be confused, and they might just have a bad taste about your brand and about what you're selling to them because of the sales call. And so it's so important to lead with sales calls by saying, this is a sales call. And you might be thinking, all right, well, will my sales calls go down? Will people actually get on that sales call? Will they actually show up to it if they know that they're gonna be sold? And one of my favorite exercises that I do with my clients is I help them remind themselves of, when was a time that you loved being sold to? For me, it was when I got my engagement ring with my husband, my now husband. And we went to the jeweler and he showed us around all these different rings. And I remember seeing my ring and he was selling us on it. We went outside to see it sparkle in the light. I remember him comparing all the different rings and how this one had the best cut and the best clarity. And I loved how he sold me. And so I want you to think about, when was a time that you loved being sold to and you went into a conversation or you went into a store knowing that you were going to be sold to, and it was a win-win for both you and the person who was the seller. It's so important to call your sales calls, not anything else, so that people are ready to be sold to because they want to be sold to. They want to buy your solution. So it's like, okay, Dielle, I can call it a sales call, but what actually is a sales call? Sales calls are just conversations where you will show someone how you can help them. That's all a sales call is. It's not something that has to be overly complicated or followed by a really rigid script. More on scripts later. It doesn't have to be anything like that. It's simply a conversation on how you can show someone that you can help them. And again, people love these calls. Sales calls are life-changing. When you're on a sales call, you'll be able to show them how you can solve their problem. People want to know how to get their problem solved and they want support on how to do that. So speaking of scripts, one of the things that I tell my clients is don't use them. I know there are so many sales call scripts on the internet. So many people market sales call scripts and say that they have the perfect sales call script that will eliminate all objections. They don't exist. Because the best sales conversations are just that, conversations and not scripts. Now, there is a process that you can use to guide your conversation, but everyone can tell when you're looking off in the corner or if you're pausing on the phone and you're following these templated questions. I want you to think about when you're at the bank, right? Or if you're trying to call something or you're on the phone with your health insurance and you have those robotic questions and you keep yelling on the phone, speak to a representative. That's how it feels when you have a script and you're using that on someone. They want a real person. They want conversations and questions that are geared toward them. They don't want any blanket statements. So I believe that you will actually convert your sales calls so much higher when you don't have a script, but you can have a process. So here is my 3-step process that I teach all of my clients, and it's what helps them convert even higher all the way to 100%. The first part of the sales call process is triage. And so when someone gets on the sales call, you want to triage and figure out what their problem is. What is their problem with their life? What is their problem with their marriage? What is their problem with their business? Whatever your niche is, you want to figure out exactly what the problem is. People buy because people know that you can solve their problem. So before we can even get to you talking about your offer or anything like that, we need to know what is the actual client problem. So you want to spend your first moments talking about the client problem. It's also really important that you're not just blabbing and assuming anything about the client. You want to come in as a clean slate and you want to learn as much as possible about the client. You then want to move on to building out a plan with the client. The second step is building out a plan. From there, you're like, okay, this is your problem, and if we were to work together, this is your solution. Here are the 3 things that we will do together in order for you to achieve the results that you want. You want to give it in a 3-step plan so that the client actually remembers what you said after the sales call. So many times when people are doing sales calls, they will give the client so much information to be throwing everything but the kitchen sink at them, and then they walk away, not remember anything. And so it's so important to actually only stick to 3 core things that you're gonna help the client do, and it should be based off of their problems. And then the third thing that you wanna do is then you wanna talk about your offer after you figured out the problem, you gave a plan for them, and then you want to actually convert them and tell them about the offer. You wanna tell them what the offer is, what's included, and you wanna give the price. And then you want to share what their thoughts are. And so you want to give the problem, you then want to give them a plan, and then you want to tell them what the offer is with the price. Just those 3 things will immediately help your conversions. And one of the really big mistakes that people make is they try to do and put way too much into their sales calls. They again want to throw everything but the kitchen sink. They want to explain every little thing that they get. They want to dive into each individual curriculum and module and framework that they have. You don't want to put any of those in your sales calls. You only want to stick to what your client said. You only want to show and solve for any problems that your client shared with you. Because people don't buy what they don't think their problem is. If someone is trying to sell you an apple, but you came into the grocery store getting a banana, you're not going to buy the apple. It's so important to only talk about what your client shared during those 3 steps. So after you tell them the sales call, they should be a yes. But if you didn't get a yes, if they had a question or if they had an objection, do not worry. Objections are just questions. Do you see how I even use them interchangeably? Objections are just questions. That's all they are. It's not that they're not going to buy. It's not that they're going to be confused. It's not that you're going to sound sleazy or gross for answering their objections, but they just have a question about their offer, and it's okay that they do. So make the mindset shift that any objection that you get, it's literally just a question. And you get to ask questions about the things that you buy, right? So does the person. I feel like so many coaches overthink objections. They think objections are sleazy or gross because they think that the person doesn't want to be sold to, but they absolutely do. And then the only thing you need to worry about is just answering their questions and answering their concerns and answering any problem that they see with your offer. Do not avoid objections, lean into them. If they have a question, just answer it. They are allowed to have questions. So with all of these strategies, you will increase your sales call conversions without scripts, without feeling you have to memorize something, and without feeling like you have to beg for the sale. People will always convert on a sales call if you solve their problem and their problem only. So make sure to go to the free training in my description to learn more about sales calls and how they can help you make more sales as a part-time coach. All right, I will see you in my next video.